Hi, my name is Ian Hartman, Senior Solution Architect for Western Computer, and welcome back to the Product Configuration Series. This is Part 2, Product Configuration Models. So let's get started. As with all product configuration, everything we do resides in the Product Information Management module, and we're going to go to the Product Configuration models located under the Products menu. And over here today, we're going to be working with this particular high-end speaker item. So if we click on that and go into the high-end speaker item, we close this down. You'll notice it has a name, of course, it has a description. In this case, I've added this because it does represent a specific item number, configured item number. Is this a reusable configuration? I'll discuss that shortly. And use configuration nomenclature. Now, use configuration nomenclature to me is very, very important because every time we make a customer-specific item, whether we generate it from a sales order or a production order, this unique configuration should have its own unique key, its own item number that means something to you as an individual. When I turn this box on, it allows me to click on this pencil, go into an editor, and decide how I want that to appear. So in this case, I'm saying, well, I want to use the attribute cabinet finish. And I want to put a text dash, followed by the front grill's value by a dash, etc., until I finally get down to this number sequence here at the bottom. And this is what it'll end up looking like. If it were using black metal 14-inch with corner protectors, this would be a representation or example of what that number would be. And it means something to the business, right? It needs to mean something to you specifically. Secondly is reusing configurations. So reusing configurations is something that I think is important as well. If I'm building up a configuration, maybe I'm a representative on the phone, I'm taking a sales order, and I'm configuring the product, and as I'm building up this configuration, I come to the end of it, and the system notices I've already made this before. This will allow me to take that number and not create a brand new configuration ID. So what does it do? It reduces the number of configuration IDs that are sitting in the system's repository. Okay? It's a nice feature. Next is, what are the attributes that are going to make up this finished good when making this high-end speaker? So remember, being that it is configurable, it's going to have certain pieces of the puzzle that make up that finished good. And in this case, cabinet finish, front grille, corner protection. If I go to look at, for example, the main attribute type, cabinet finish, and I go drill into that particular attribute, you'll notice it has oak, rosewood, white, and black. Let me go over here and open up another session really quickly. I can show you something that is very interesting. So let's go back into the product configuration model, which I had in my favorite. And from here, I'm going to click on the model and I'm going to click on test. So this is the parent form right now. I just reopened another session to this attribute type form that I drilled into using this menu branch here. But without having to open and close a million different forms, I'm going to work from here as well. So if I go to do my test at this point, my test shows it simulates what would happen in production. So as I'm building up my configuration, it allows me to test it. So in this case, I'm just trying to prove out here to show you that oak, rosewood, white, and black are my current attribute types. Okay, so we can all agree. When I cancel this and close this back down, I come back over to attribute type. Let's say I add one here, and I'm going to call it blonde. It's a blonde wood. And I'm going to say save that and escape out of here. And now when I come into the model and I go to the test, you'll notice under cabinet finishes, it says there's blonde, right? It brought in blonde. And there's a hidden modifier that's telling me that's turned on, that's invalid. So we need to go look at that, and we'll look at that next, shortly. And that's in our next session, okay? So That's one way of producing and creating a unique cabinet finish on a particular item. So in this case, again, cabinet finish. I'm going to go ahead and remove the blonde. Yes, I'm going to remove blonde. The other thing I wanted to show you is that I can also create brand new attributes by adding them right here. So in this case, I'm going to go up to model and I'm going to click on attribute types. And I've created one called a new type. Going back to cabinet finish, this is using a fixed list, as you'll see, with the 4 attributes. If I go to a new type, when I created new here, I picked from the list integer. I told it was a range, and I said it's from numbers 1 through 5. So all I'm saying here is that I have a brand new attribute that I'm ready to use. And when I pick the drop down, I should see numbers 1 through 5 because it's an integer and it's in a range. So let's go ahead and see how that works. I'm back to my high-end speaker in the configurable model form where I'm setting up this configuration. And I'm going to go ahead, let's remove this. Let's just add a brand new one here. And I'm going to call it a new item. And over here, I'll just call it new item. Now, look at the names. This is the name that's presented to the user. This solver name is used, and I'm going to show you in our next session, when I start producing and writing conditions that allow the system to do different things that I want to say are business decisions. For example, I may want to hide a new item, this new field I'm putting in here, under certain conditions. So this is just going to be the word test. And in this case, we're picking from the list, and I just created this thing called a new type. We're going to say yes, let's save that. So now that's saved over here. If I come back over to the model and I go test it, there's this new item down here, 1 through 5, a new type. Okay, so that wasn't there before. Okay. Hopefully that explains that. I'll be back shortly to go over the conditions. And remember, at any point in time, feel free to visit us at westerncomputer.com, where we have additional videos in this subject matter. This has been presentation number 2, Product Configuration Models, part of the Product Configuration series with Ian Hartman at Western Computer. Come on back and let's watch Product Configuration Part 3.